Her name was Emily Carter. She was 32, a registered nurse at a busy hospital in Ohio, and she had just finished her fourth 12-hour shift in a row. The kind of shift where you don't sit, you don't eat, and sometimes you don't even get a moment to breathe. That night had been especially brutal. One patient coded twice. Another family screamed at her because she couldn't fix what medicine simply couldn't fix. And near the end of her shift, she had held the hand of an elderly man as he took his final breath, whispering for a wife who had passed years earlier. Emily loved being a nurse. Or at least she used to. She loved helping people, loved feeling useful, loved knowing her work mattered. But lately the weight of it all felt unbearable. The student loans, the rent that kept going up, the constant understaffing, the guilt of feeling like she was never doing enough. And on top of that, her mom had been diagnosed with early-stage cancer just 2 months earlier. Emily was the strong one in her family, the fixer, the one everyone leaned on. But that night, alone in the hospital parking lot, she had nothing left. Tears streamed down her face as cars passed by, headlights briefly lighting up her pain before disappearing into the dark. She told herself she'd stop crying soon. She always did. She'd wipe her face, drive home, and do it all over again tomorrow. But then out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a red pickup truck slow down a few spaces away. She froze, embarrassed, hoping the driver would just keep going. Instead, the truck parked. A moment later, a door opened. Heavy boots hit the pavement. Emily lifted her head slightly and saw a tall man in a dark blue uniform walking toward her car. Fire department patch on his sleeve. His jacket was unzipped, and his face looked tired in the same way hers probably did. He stopped a few feet away and raised his hands slightly, not wanting to scare her. "Hey," he said gently. "I'm sorry to bother you. I saw you sitting here, and I wanted to make sure you're okay." Emily hesitated. Every part of her wanted to say yes, to roll down the window and lie. But something in his voice, calm, sincere, familiar, broke through her defenses. She shook her head. "No," she whispered. The firefighter nodded like he understood completely. "Yeah," he said softly. "I figured." His name was Jake Morales. He'd been a firefighter for nearly 10 years. That night his shift had ended late too. A house fire on the edge of town. A family of 5 had made it out, but barely. He could still smell the smoke on his clothes. He was on his way home when he saw Emily in her car, shoulders shaking, pain written all over her posture. He almost drove past. Almost. But something told him not to. "I'm not here to fix anything," Jake said. "I'm not great at that anyway. But if you don't want to be alone right now, I can stand here for a minute." Emily stared at him, then slowly rolled down her window. "I'm a nurse," she said, as if that explained everything. Jake gave a small, tired smile. "Yeah, I figured that too." That was all it took. The tears came harder then. She told him about the shift, about the patients, about her mom, about how she felt like she was drowning while pretending to be okay for everyone else. Jake didn't interrupt. He didn't rush her. He just listened, leaning against the hood of her car, nodding when it mattered. When she finally ran out of words, the parking lot was quiet again. "You know," Jake said after a moment, "I've had nights where I sit in my truck and stare at the steering wheel, wondering if I can keep doing this job, wondering if the things I couldn't save outweigh the ones I did." Emily looked at him. "What do you tell yourself?" He thought for a second. "I tell myself that showing up still matters, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts." They stood there under the dim parking lot lights, 2 strangers bound by exhaustion and a shared desire to help others, even at the cost of themselves. Jake glanced at his watch. "I don't know about you," he said, "but I could really use some terrible diner coffee right now." Emily let out a small laugh, the first in days. "Yeah," she said. "Me too." They didn't exchange numbers that night. They didn't make big promises. They just drank bad coffee, talked about nothing and everything, and reminded each other that they weren't alone. And somehow that was enough. Weeks passed. Then months. Life didn't suddenly get easier. Emily's mom started treatment. Work was still overwhelming. Jake still ran into burning buildings. But sometimes when Emily felt the weight pressing down on her chest, she'd remember that night in the parking lot. She'd remember that even in her weakest moment, someone had stopped. Because sometimes hope doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand speeches. Sometimes, hope is a firefighter who pulls over, a quiet conversation under flickering lights, and the simple reminder that you don't have to carry everything by yourself.